Hey everyone, this is Jeff Risdon with the Detroit Lions podcast and Lions Wire. And Saturday morning, I'm recording this a day after I was at the first day and the only open day of Detroit Lions rookie minicamp. So I'm going to give you some expanded thoughts upon what I wrote about at Lions Wire the other day. So without further ado, let's get into this. All right. First impressions. Got to make this clear off the top. It's the first ever NFL practice for almost all these guys. All the rookies. This is the first time they've ever been on the training field. It was outdoors. Lions have 2 outdoor practice fields. They use them both. It was a little rough, as to be expected. It normally happens that way. Usually they give us we usually watch on either Saturday or Sunday, which is normally the second or third day of rookie minicamp. But this year they gave us the first day, and it was a little sloppy early. They had several times where they had to regroup in the huddle because the offensive players weren't in the right spot or didn't have the right personnel group. There were a couple times in the 7-on-7 portion where the defense had 8 players, and they had to figure out who wasn't supposed to be on the field. So little things like that. That's the first day. That's not reflective of the players. It's not reflective of it's new. It is what it is. That's the process of learning and going over it. But overall, pretty good first impression of a lot of the rookies. I'll start with the drafted guys, and we'll take them in order just a little bit. Terrion Arnold very much looks and acts the part of a number 1 cornerback. He is a little bit bigger in person than I think people would be led to believe. He is definitely a legit 6 foot. He's not skinny. He's not scrawny, especially when standing next to Ennis Rakestraw. It was noticeable. And we'll get to Rakestraw in a second. But Arnold was the first team outside cornerback. He looked good. He looked comfortable. He looked confident. Had his fantastic press conference afterwards, which I'm sure you all have seen. If not, check my Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I actually shot the video from very up close, and I gave a little extended cut on it to give a little bit more context to it about how his mom also kicked his tooth out while they were wrestling when he was a kid. It was a really neat experience, and it was fun to watch him and Rakestraw interact. They sort of have a yin and yang relationship to them. They're very different personalities, and it's a good thing. They blend pretty well together. It's pretty easy to see them getting along very well. And doing their own things together. I was very impressed with Arnold. Rakestraw played the slot, and that was interesting. He looks like a slot when you see him in person up close. He is listed at 5'11". It's probably right. I think at the combine he was like 5'11 and 3/4, and that's close. Listed at 190 by the Lions, and if he's 190, then I'm Shaq. He's just not. I don't know where that weight is. He looked more like the 180. I think it was 184 at the combine that we saw. That he's definitely visibly slighter and smaller, especially in the upper body, than Terrion Arnold is, and smaller than some of the other guys. So playing him in the slot, one of the things that I really liked about that is that he is ridiculously fluid with his lower body, with his footwork, with his hips, with his movement, and that plays very well in the slot. Now, again, yesterday was first day, so you can't make pressing judgments off of it other than the aesthetic of it. He moved really well. Didn't show any signs of being limited by the core muscle surgery that he had. I believe that was in January that he had that. It wiped out his workout season, but he looked just as greasy moving as he did on film, and that's a good thing because that's one of the things that stood out about Rakestraw as a positive in his film study was he can flip his hips and he can go, he can change directions in an instant. Very, very, and that was very evident yesterday. He did end practice early. He talked about it after practice. I got into that conversation at the tail end of it, but the effect of it was that the Lions put him on a pitch count, and he was reluctantly agreeing to go along with that. Good dude, by the way. Very pleasant. He has a drawl to him that if you're not used to talking to people from the South, you're not going to understand him instantly. That was a problem for a couple people that were taking the dictation on his thing. I lived in Houston. I lived in Richmond, Virginia long enough to know how to decipher some of the accents and drawls. So I was good with it, but even then, I gotta pay attention a little bit. So if you're listening to an Ennis Rakestraw interview, it can't be background noise. Like, you need to be focused in on that. So, I like, and by the way, just the idea of him in the slot, I like it. Cross train him. This is a guy who's not going to start as an outside cornerback as a rookie. He's just not. That's Carlton Davis. That's Terrion Arnold. If somehow Emmanuel Mosley comes back, if somehow Amik Robertson rises up and takes one of those outside jobs, I don't think Rakestraw is competing for that. I think they see him as a reserve, and training him in the slot as a reserve where his body type fits pretty well. And style of play fits very well, or can fit very well. I like it. And he did say that he had played in the slot at Missouri as a freshman. So it's interesting to see if he's sort of the utility backup that Will Harris has been. And I think we would all agree that an upgrade at the Will Harris position is something that the Lions want and need. And if it's Rakestraw, that's great. That's good. Good use of resources there by the Lions in planning ahead. And we'll see what happens with it. I like it though. It was a good first impression of Ennis Rakestraw overall. So that's nice. Manu. Oh boy. The guy looks like he started lifting weights coming out of the womb. My God. Just like ridiculous musculature on a 350-pound dude. Unreal. And natural looking, by the way. He doesn't look like he's roided up or, shredded, like trying to be on a Muscle and Fitness magazine cover or anything like that. He's just built, man. Moves pretty well. It's impressive. By the way, it's Gio. He prefers Gio, not Giovanni. He nicely corrected us on that. So thanks, Gio. I'll make sure to get that right. Number 59. So they started out practice yesterday, and they were doing they're not in pads, but they were doing offense versus defense. Primarily run plays, but also some pass plays where they didn't actually throw the ball. Just to get people warmed up. But the linemen they took that as their opportunity and their cue to let's go at this. And he was going up against Nate Lynn, who's pretty good. We'll talk about him a little bit. I went up against Matthew Betts, playing left tackle exclusively. Manu was yesterday, although that's not necessarily the long-term plan. First 4 or 5 reps, stop holding, egregious, really, really bad holds, just almost to the point where it was do they need to sit him down and sub somebody else in, because it was bad. Got a little bit better. He had a couple, and I'll say the biggest problem that he had was when Lynn went low and Betts sort of showed the inside shoulder, left shoulder, and then sort of flipped across and crossed him. And he just didn't have the ability to let go of the chest or the shoulder. Hands were way too wide. Got better as practice went on. Against first practice, his first NFL practice, his first American football practice against Americans in a long time. So, there's obviously that context needed. But then they're doing offensive line drills off to the side, and I'll try to make this as brief as I can because it was something that really stood out. He was having trouble with his hands again, hand placement, and Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach, gave him a drill where he had to focus on hitting a smaller target. They gave him an actual target to hit, and he worked with it on it. And he was the reps that he wasn't in, he's working off on the side with one of the assistant coaches. They came back in. and it's a run blocking drill, like to like, push the guy back. And it's going against fellow offensive linemen. And the victim on this play was Brian Hudson, a 305-pound interior lineman from Louisville. And they're supposed to provide some resistance for this. And Manu, oh man, got his hands exactly where they were supposed to be. He sank his weight. His hips were down. His shoulders locked in. And he pushed a 305-pound man. And I kid you not, it was like a snow plow against a trash can, like just unreal power. And the other linemen were like, whoa. and in that moment, I had the thunderbolt of like, that's why they drafted him. Like, he's not close with everything else, but you needed to see one rep that's like, okay, this is what yeah, that's it. So impressive rep. Overall, actually not very impressive day, but again, it's the first day. You have to understand that context. So physical first impression of Manu is wow. Play-wise, he has some work to do. Hank Fraley's got his hands full with that one. But that's they knew that going in. We all knew that going in. So it was interesting to see him in person. It was cool. He seems to be a genuinely appreciative person of the opportunity he's gotten too. So that's nice to see. Let's go to Sione Vaki, running back. Only playing running back. They made that very clear. Ray Agnew said it before practice. Scotty Montgomery, the running backs coach. And by the way, there were only two running backs there. It was Vaki and it was a dude from Hillsdale, Michael Herzog, who was wearing number 19. Windsor native. For you Canadian folks, I salute you. It was Vaki's an interesting running back because the thing that you notice when you're watching him is he steps so heavy, but it's not like he's like normally you would expect like a heavy-footed guy to be kind of slow. Like he just churns up grass, man. Every rep, there's stuff flying out of his cleats, stuff flying from behind it. And he bursts out of it. Like he's getting that extra traction and he's using it to propel himself in a way that it's unusual. Jamal Williams, although I think he's probably a little bit more dynamic as a runner in terms of like burst than Jamal was. I'm not comparing him to Jamal. Jamal clearly had vision, balance, all those things. You didn't really get to see that because they're not tackling. But Vaki was that. But man, special teams, oh my God. As impressive as that rep from Manu was, watching the new kickoff drills and him covering them, he was elite already. Like 3 or 4 reps, just like he darn near. And remember, they're not allowed to leave until after the ball has been caught. And he covers so much ground so quickly and didn't overrun the play. He understood because he has been a returner and he also has that running back mindset. He knew where that play was going to go by reading the blocks, by reading what the receiver did, and just went after and like wow, man, like hell yeah. Potential Pro Bowler special teams early in his career for Sione Vaki. Again, hard to say how he's going to do as a running back. He did catch the ball pretty nicely coming out of the backfield, which is something that Ray Agnew said before practice that we should watch for. Thanks for that, Ray. You're right. That was good. But no inclination at all that he's going to play some safety. And it was pretty clear that Scotty Montgomery has sort of adopted him as his project. Scotty is a verbose coach who gives a lot of love and a lot of tough love. And every rep, he's saying something to Vaki, whether it's positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, just something. It's clear that Scotty is very heavily invested in Sione Vaki. So I think that speaks a lot to where he's at as a running back. But it was good first impression there too. He is, so I had seen him at the Senior Bowl and we actually almost got a chance to interview him. He wound up being at the end of a period where they were with us. So we would have only had like a minute with him. So we didn't bother it, but he looks like he's leaned it down just a little bit. I would say he's at two. I think he's listed at 207. And that seems about right. But looks very good. And clearly has some competitive fire to him. Last two guys, Christian Mahogany played right guard exclusively. Again, it's tough to. First off, it was tough to watch from our vantage point because we were on the left side, so we're watching the left tackle through center a lot easier than we can see the right side of the line. I'll tell you what, though. If you didn't know better, he's wearing number 73. And if you didn't know better, you'd swear it was Jonah Jackson. They're built sort of the same, like wide-chested, broad-shouldered, that kind of go down in it, and like thick upper arms, not necessarily sculpted, but thick. And he was fun. I had some fun with him after he did a podium interview. They all did. And at the beginning of that, it was just me and Ben Raven, and I think John Macaron from Detroit Sports Podcast was there. We were the only ones there. So we got a lot of time with him. And one of the things that it stands out, he's got a crap ton of tattoos. And one of them is a gorgeous lion with like a crown on it on his left forearm. I actually got to ask him about it. It was pretty cool. He fits. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he winds up being a starting offensive lineman sooner than later. Now, obviously, the Lions don't have any openings, but again, here's my draft crush. I don't want to wax too poetic on that. The other one is Mekhi Wingo. And we only get to see, I only saw just a little bit of him. The defensive linemen were working on the other field that was way over there. I only wandered over there once, and they were basically just like hitting a bag. So it was tough to say. I will say that in the early portion where they were going at the teams, he did line up at right defensive end a couple of times in probably a 7 technique, maybe 6. It was tough to see again because of the angle that we were at, but he was out aligned against the tackle and attacked the tackle, which is interesting because he's 6 foot, he's 280 pounds, and that seems very accurate with him. But I will say this. His lateral quickness at his size and build was impressive to see, just in the little bit that we did get to see him. So that's the impressions of the draft picks. Go a little broader here on the overall practice. Dan Campbell wasn't there. He was excused for personal reasons. I did ask a couple of people who were employed by the Lions. They're like, he's not here. Like, I know there's conspiracy theories out there that he's like, I don't even know. I didn't get any sense of that. Don't know. He wasn't there. It was excused. The players seemed to know it ahead of time going in, so I'm not going to play in the game. He just wasn't there. It did allow Scotty Montgomery to show that he is, in fact, the assistant head coach, and he took over a lot of the running of operations with that, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I also saw Mark Brunell, the quarterbacks coach, do a little bit more. Again, he only had 2 quarterbacks with him. And Scotty only had 2 running backs with him, so it was probably a little bit easier for them to pull away than it was for guys like Antoine Randall, Seth Ryan, Hank Fraley, with larger position groups. So I guess that sort of factors into that too. The blue uniforms on the offense, they're gorgeous. Love them. Love that I can read the numbers on both the blues and the whites. It used to be a struggle at training camp and practices. Like, is that 89? Is that 88? Is that 18? Like, it was tough. The new numbers, the uniforms, they pop, man. The blue, I will give I will give one of the Lions media guys a little credit for this. He said it's a homogeneous blue. And he's right. Like, the blue is the same on the white uniforms and the blue uniforms. They didn't used to be that way. Like, there was a different shade. It looked really good. It was cool to see that. It was nice. It looked very good in person. Looked very sharp in person. And for those of you who are still continue to be worried that the blue is too close to the Carolina Panthers blue with the black uniforms, in respect to that, if the homogeneity of the blue that I saw yesterday carries over to the black, you're not going to have to worry about that at all. It's not. It's just not. So that was nice. Good uniforms. New coaches. Something that I wanted to watch, and quite frankly, I just didn't get enough time or attention to it, especially the defensive linemen. Again, with Terrell Williams, they were way over there. I was over here for the most of the day, so just didn't get much of an impression on that. Defensive backs, Deshae Townsend, they were working on the farther side of that field, but it was actually more visible for us. And I did watch some of the defensive backs, but couldn't really make out like the coaching that was going on with it or anything. So, sorry, I'll try to catch that one the next time I'm over there for OTAs, which is the next time that they're open. And I believe that is the 20th, I want to say. But anyways, we'll get more into that when that happens. So kicking, James Turner from Michigan was the kicker. Undrafted free agent, came in. He did not attempt any field goals. He did do kickoffs, and he did a pretty good job of hitting that splash zone. They want the kick to land between the 10 and the goal line, and he did that pretty well. He had a couple that were really short. He had one that was fielded by Isaiah Williams. I think it was at the 17-yard line. That's not so good because that just, you want it to be deeper. Didn't have any that went into the end zone, and I think that's a control thing on his part more than it was the fact that he can't get it there. So interesting. It was cool to see the new kickoff and the implementation from it. And it was the first time for most of these players that they'd ever seen anything like that or tried anything like that. It was also interesting watching the non-special teams coaches watch that drill to sort of get a better idea of it in person. It was I'll say this. The days of having your backup corner as your gunner, nah. You need linebackers, you need tight ends, you need running backs, safeties. That's your big players that are going to be contributing on tight ends now. Bigger wide receivers can do it in coverage and in blocking, but cornerbacks, smaller wide receivers, smaller running backs need not apply with this. It's very different. It's cool. I'm curious as to how it's going to evolve. On that as well. I brought up Isaiah Williams. That'll lead us into the undrafted rookies and tryout players who stood out segment. Imagine a big graphic there of all that. Isaiah Williams, he stood out. We're number 83. He's clearly the most explosive, most dynamic receiver that was there. Just looked really good coming out of the slot. He did get a couple of return reps. Juice. I know that's his nickname from Illinois, but he's got a real shot. Playing in the slot, he runs crisp routes. He was where he was supposed to be. He was able to catch a couple of balls that were a little bit behind him. Made a very nice instant cut. One of the things that Antoine Randall L was focusing on when he was working with his guys, they were running a drill where they had to catch a kind of a swing pass and turn it up right away. And Williams got a lot of credit for how fast he turned it up. And the other guy who did it, I don't want to get it wrong. Who was it? Who was the other one who got it very quick? Oh, Jalen Calhoun from Duke was another one. Instant turn up field, and they got coaching praise from that. So that deserves to get mentioned. Williams, he tested really poorly, and I was not privy to this to the post practice interview scrum with him. I believe it was Dave Burkett. It might have been Justin Rogers who was with him, but they were sharing it in the media room afterwards. And he talked about how the 4.64 that he ran at the combine devastated him. He's faster than that, folks, in person. They don't have the GPS. Even if they did, they wouldn't give us the access to it. But he's not this slow plot. This isn't Tease Tabor playing wide receiver. It's not like that at all. And it's unfortunate that's you get pigeonholed when you time like that and when you have a poor workout like that. Ennis Rakestraw sort of had that same thing happen to him a little bit. I guess there's some Lions fans that think Terrion Arnold is slow too. I don't think those people are grounded in any sense of reality, but that's what happens with it. Williams is going to be out to prove that wrong, and I think when more people get in front of him and see him, think we'll stop having that conversation about Isaiah Williams being slow. Is he like super speed? No, he's not. He's not. That's not his game. He wins with balance, acceleration, vision, sharpness to his cuts, and football intelligence, and all those things were very evident the first day. So it's easy to see why they gave him a big bonus, and why he is probably the most. I would say he is the free agent, undrafted free agent who's most likely to make the team. I got to talk about Nate Lynn for a little bit. Pass rusher, number 57 from William and Mary. He can bend, man. He beat Manu pretty cleanly under. And Lynn's like, he's a 6'3", 200 and what's that? 6'3", 256. And that seems about right. He had a shoulder dip under, and then it's kind of like the shrug up move to block the handoff and got around. Very nice moves. He's got a little bit of juice to him, so it's going to be interesting to see how he keeps going forward. He is signed, and that's, again, it's easy to see why he was signed. A couple of the other guys that made the notes. Oh yeah, gotta bring him up. Deron Gilbert. Linebacker, number 53 from Northern Illinois. Again, you're not getting testing the linebackers other than seeing how they move in space and how they can cover in their instincts. And his coverage instincts were beautiful. Read plays, closed on them very quickly, made a play on a ball in front of a tight end. The tight ends, by the way, were very nondescript. Parker Hesse, who preceded Sam Laporta at Iowa, was the best of them, and he is not all super athletic. I will say he does catch the ball well, and once he's chugging, he's motoring, man, but just not a dynamic athlete there. So, but I was impressed with Deron Gilbert. So that's another name to watch. Another one that I liked. I don't want to get his first name right because I don't have his last name right now. Number 30. We go through the players here. J.J. Ross, cornerback from Western Illinois. 6'3", and he looks it. Well built. Made a couple of very nice plays. I got it in my notes here. Made a really nice interception snag in ball drills. And this is the one where you have two cornerbacks two defensive backs lined up in a line, and they're sprinting forward, and guys are throwing balls at him, and they got to catch it. He made one that from really close range that was like thrown like almost at his right ear, and he sort of huffed it like that and pulled it down and like took out like oh nice, man, like that was cool. He also made an interception. He stepped in front of Williams on an out route, and I'll tell you what, for a 6'3" guy, he got moving quickly. He's a tryout player. Don't know how it's going to go. Again, it was one practice. It's the first day. As I'm recording this Saturday morning, they're in their second practice now. Like, he could be terrible today. He could be gone tomorrow. Who knows? But he made a very nice first impression on me, and I would like to see more of him. And if he doesn't make it in Detroit, if you're a fan of another team watching this, first off, thank you. Secondly, he's a guy that's probably worth a camp invite after this if for some reason he doesn't stick with the Lions. So J.J. Ross, good job, buddy. It was good. Good play yesterday. Who else was there? So the centers. Okay. Snapping the ball is the number one role of a center, and Kingsley Aguakun, who has some fanfare and has a lot of support, and I will back that up. My friend and colleague at Lions Wire, Russell Brown, is a big fan of Kingsley Aguakun. He had a lot of trouble snapping the ball to a quarterback under center. There was 3 misses. 2 of them were with Drew Peterson from Grand Valley State. I'll talk about him in a second. The other one was the other quarterback, number 10. He is Theo Day. And I will give Aguakun a little bit of a break here, because Theo Day, when he's under center, sits so low in his crouch, like his ass is almost touching the ground. Like, he's that low. And so it's an awkward angle It looked really weird. Nick Baumgartner from The Athletic and I were like, is his ass touching the ground? Like, why is he so low? Yeah, wasn't a very impressive day from Day. No pun intended. But Agurkun had some issues with that. Brian Hudson, I did not see him playing any center. He played some right guard. He played some left guard from Louisville. He's a bit of an older prospect, but he didn't get a lot of run at that. And then number 60, who's that one? 65. Oh, that's Agurkun. Duke Clemens, 63 is the other one. He only played left guard. I do understand that he did get some snaps at center later. I wasn't there for that portion of it, or I was looking somewhere else, so I didn't get to see much on that. But again, the only thing that we really had to judge them on was the aesthetics of it, and also the very early portion where they went up against live defense and didn't stand out. Didn't stand out positive. Didn't stand out negative. That's pretty much the only way that you really stand out, is either you do something really, really well or you do something really, really poorly. And he didn't do that either way. So to be continued on that one. A couple other quick notes. Kyler McMichael, undrafted rookie last year from North Carolina, and I don't know where he played in 2023, if at all. Made a very nice pass defense on the sideline. He jumped in front of number 88, and number 88 was Caden Davis, a tryout player who's from Northwest Missouri State, also has a year of experience. He didn't stand out at all. 27 also looked good on McMichael looked good on special teams drills. He made a couple of nice blocks. If you're going to make the team as a reserve wide receiver, you better be able to do something special team wise. He did that. He also took one return rep. Take that, just file that away. But he was a guy that I thought showed me something to look at and made want to see more. So that's one. Let's talk about Drew Peterson for a second. This is of local interest to me. I live about 15 minutes from Grand Valley State. I've seen Drew Peterson play. Seen him in person. Got to talk with him a little bit as part of a group interview afterwards. He's a consummate winner. He is a very accurate quarterback. He can throw outs. He can throw timing routes. Yesterday was a little shaky. Again, some of that is the fact that he's working with wide receivers that he's never seen before in an offense that he's never run before. Like, you gotta understand the context. The biggest issues that I had for him coming in were, can he sense the pressure, and can he zip the ball into a small window? On the former count, yes, I thought he did a pretty good job of sensing when the pressure was there and getting rid of the ball when he needed to get rid of it. So that's good because that was one of the questions I had from him watching him at GVSU. The other one, I'm not sure the arm strength is there it's interesting that Jared Goff gets dinged somewhat for his arm strength when he can zip the ball into small windows. He just prefers not to. That was one of the revelations the first time that we as a media collectively saw him in Detroit. Was like, we all heard that he was this weak arm guy. Like, he can sizzle it in if he needs to. He just doesn't want to. I'm not sure that Peterson has the can on that. So it's going to be interesting to see how long he sticks around. They do need a fourth quarterback. Last year was Adrian Martinez, who is now an MVP candidate in the UFL. I don't think Peterson is to that level, but I think I hope that they keep him around at least through the early part of training camp and maybe even into a preseason game, because there is something there. Record-setting passer at GVSU, had just an incredible leader of men as well at a. Look, I don't want to fluff up the GLIAC too much, but the SEC of D2 is the GLIAC. Ferris State, Saginaw Valley State, Davenport, GVSU, Northern Michigan. My son's going to Michigan Tech to play basketball next year, so I got to throw the Huskies into there too. It's a really, really good high-level football conference at D2. A lot of those guys could play in the MAC or at, be on the sidelines for Michigan State, Toledo, Bowling Green, any of those schools. Peterson was very dominant at that level, and I hope that he continues to get a chance for it. But first impression was kind of okay. Could have been better. Could have been a lot worse too. It could have been. We've seen worse. Let's just put it that way. Gonna wrap this up here. With just a couple of other like quick observations. Got to give credit to the Lions media team again. They are great. They do a fantastic job of getting what we need when we need it. If we ask for something, they get it. I asked for a little bit of extra time with Christian Mahogany. I got it. That was great. Thank you for that. But Christian's is good, man. I'm going to have something on that on Lions Wire written up later. And I will also repost the video if I get a chance to do that with talking to him. The other thing, if you're going to Allen Park this summer for training camp, when that opens, and that will be those dates will get announced fairly soon. We'll learn the NFL schedule before that. Schedule release is something else. So I'll take that little diversion real quick. Week 1, I want them to play the Houston Texans. I want that to be a primetime game. Monday Night Football would be fantastic. Probably won't be. I don't want the Thursday night game. I want primetime though. Thanksgiving, I want the Bears. And I think I said this on the live show last week, I want Dallas early, and I want that to be a Monday night game or a primetime game as well, because I think that the Lions match up very well with the Cowboys. And look, nothing against the Cowboys, but it'd be nice to dethrone a team that has the fan base and national cachet that they do. So that would be cool. And I want to finish I would like to start with like 2 of the first 3 games on the road, because I want those home games late in the year. I want them in Detroit to finish out this schedule when they're playing Minnesota and Green Bay, probably the last 2 weeks. Just a speculative guess there. But I want those games at home late in the year. That's all I really care about the schedule. Like, we know who they're playing. We know whether it's home or away. The schedule release thing, it never ceases to amaze me that the NFL makes a massive production out of releasing the sequence of games, but that's why they're the NFL. That's why they're dominant. But just fun first day of camp. It was nice to get over there. Driving out, traffic is insane. It was it was a very long drive. It was an even longer drive going back. The 275, 696, 96 convergence. And I go up 275 to take 96 west to go through Lansing and back home. I sat for an hour and 45 minutes, and I went 8 miles. And yes, I kept track. You got to do better than that, man. Either that or somebody send me an easier way to get around that mess without having to, clog up on like 8 Mile Road or 6 Mile Road or going out that way. I would have taken 14 out to Ann Arbor, but that was already that apparently that's closed this weekend. Not enough of the traffic report. You're here for the Lions. Good first impression. Be back at OTAs, back at Minicamp in early June. We'll hopefully have a live show in the coming days. I don't know, my schedule is fairly crazy coming up with the high school boys volleyball playoffs coming up, and also my son's graduation. So hope to get with you very soon. In the meantime, thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing, and go Lions.